Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Omar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. We're holding like 14 lines from the bottom of Dav Zayin Amud Beis. Today we have a little Agadta. We're starting out with the Agadta. Then we have great sugyas that with our AI animation and pictures, it's going to be crystal clear, like you've never seen before, and it's going to be easy and geschmack. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Lama Nikra Shmon Yemim. These wild mules that Reb Pinchas ben Yair was very worried about and concerned that Rebbe had them in front of his house. Why are they called Yemim? Says the Gemara, Sheimosan mutelis al brios. It's a lashon of fear that human beings are fearful from them. No one ever came to me to ask me for a bracha or a eitza, what to do with a zetz, a wound he received from this white mule, the chaya, and lived. As the Gemara, there are people who were injured by these mules and they ended up living. Amos, we must say, v'chayos. I've never seen a wound that healed. The person lived, but the wound is everlasting. As the Gemara, I have no people that got whacked by a mule and they lived. The chivarin reish karayu, they got better. They got better. The wound lived. They got better. The mitase, they healed. Not. I would not think that. Misspoke. You see that they healed. Says Gemara, the chivron reish karayu kamrinon. I'm talking about a specific mule. I just took a snapshot from the video. It's a red mule, but it has white feet. It was very difficult. It was like so I caught it right over there. That is a story, my brothers. Is a story of boom, and that's where he gets gesetzt. So it's not a white mule. It's a red mule that has white feet, and that's why only that breed is very dangerous. Says the Gemara, Ein oid milvadoi. Rabbi said these are three beautiful words. Why? Omer Rav Chanina. Va'afiluk shafim. Ein oid milvadoi means I believe that there's nothing but the Rebbeinu Shleilam. Nobody can control anything. Everything's controlled through Omer Rav Chanina. Va'afiluk shafim. Ein oid milvadoi overrides kshafim. You would think that somebody does kishuv, does, how do you say it in English? Magic, sorcery. Sorcery doesn't work against Einam Avadi, against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Gemara story, so the Havas Komahadro Lemishkal Afro. She was trying really hard to grab some dirt. There's nothing besides the Rebbe. You can't circumvent the Rebbeinu Shleilim, even with kishuv. I would think that kishuv has some sort of power. So there's a woman, when you see the be'etzem, it could circumvent, but not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It circumvents maybe nature, maybe regular stuff. The Havas Komahadro Lemishkal Afro Metusikari, the Rebbe Chanina. She really tried hard to get a little dirt from underneath his feet, because that's how you could do some real good kishuv. So she's crawling on the floor. As he's walking, she's trying to pick up some dirt. Amar lo, what are you trying to hide? What are you doing? Shkoili, go, gesundheit, here, grab. It's not going to work for you. It says Eidoi Mevadoi. That's the Gemara of Amar Rabbi Yochanan Lama Nikra Shman Kshafim. Why is it called Kishuf? Kshafim. Shemakishim Pamalya Shemalo. They, how do you say, lahakrish, to weaken the upper echelons. The basically you're doing things against nature. So you see that the kishuv does have power, so to speak, against nature. Says the Gemara, Shani Rebbe Chanina the nefishas chusa. You're right. Kishuv could work against somebody, but not against Rebbe Chanina, who has many schusim. V'amar Rebbe Chanina ein adam, and this is Rabbi Sai. Before we go into the sugya of knives, very interesting sugya. Just take this. This is a piece. Halavai. Everybody should think about this and know this. V'amar Rebbe Chanina ein adam noikef etzboi milamata. No one gets a boo-boo, a little bang on his finger in this world. Everything has a cheshbon. There's a reason for everything. Even something as simple as a little scrape, a little burn, a little something with your finger. Ein adam noikif etzboi milamata elo imkein machrizin olav milamala. It has to be a decree that Eli is going to bang his finger. Shenemar me'Hashem mitzadi gever koinanu v'odam hayovin darka. You'll never understand Hashem's ways. Omar Rebbe Lazar, dam nikuf miratza kidam hoyla. If a person cuts his finger, he's drilling something into the wall and it slips and he gets a little blood comes out. That's the blood of a carbon. It's like the dam of hoyla. Omar Rava, let me ruin it for you. Begud al yamin, it's only if you stub your right toe, not your left, your right toe. Ubenikuf sheni, and it must have been the second time that it happened. Begud al yamin ubenikuf sheni, vudika azal advar mitzvah. So says Rav, it has to be three things. So you think you're going to make a carbon if you get a little booba on your finger? No. It's only your right toe, twice in a row, going for a dvar mitzvah. So everybody asks, going for a dvar mitzvah, how do you stub your toe? Ain't shliach dvar mitzvah. In the Zaken. What? Shluchim mitzvah in the Zaken. Correct. Shluchim mitzvah in the Zaken. So he says, they say that when he was going, he had a machshava, he had a bad hiru or something, and that it's mechaper on those hirurim. Omra Alov, Aripichas Meyar, Miyom Avli Botzal Prusa Sheina Shaloi, he never made a moitzi on bread that wasn't his. In other words, he never enjoyed somebody else's thing. He wanted to earn it himself. Says Gemara, said, okay. And from the day, I guess he became bar mitzvah. He never benefited. He wouldn't take any money from his father. He wanted to be completely independent. Omar, so here we go. Beautiful sugya. Li ben Sakin, let's pull out our knife here. It's geschmack. No, it's just geschmack to watch Benny. He's so nervous that it's going to slip. You put this under a fire and it turns hot. Red. Rashi says red. The Gemara says white. It means red. Red hot. Red hot. What's the concern? That when I put it on the animal's neck, the heat is shechting it, not the knife. I want to get shechted by a slice, not by the pure heat. The heat could go right through the animal's neck. That's not shchita. It's a good shchita. Why? And this is super important. This is what we're going to be discussing. Halachically, we need to understand what happens first in a millisecond level. What happened first? Was the neck cut by the sharpness of the knife or by the heat of the knife? And that makes a tremendous nafkamina. If the heat came first, it's not a good shchita. If there was sharpness of the knife first, and then only afterwards this heat, that's something else. Then it's fine. And then we're going to see beautiful nafkaminas here. Ask the Gemara. So you should know that the sharpness goes first on a millisecond, a millionth of a second before the heat. It's the sharpness of the knife first. It makes even sense logically. I can hear that. Physically, there's a physical cut from the knife, and the heat only catches up a second later. It's not okay. Ask the Gemara of Ikis Dadim. What does that mean? Everybody agrees if I take a hot torch, I take a cigarette and I puncture the animal's simonim, its trachea, its esophagus with the cigarette, the animal just became a treifa. If I take a hot knife, I take this part of the knife, not the sharp part of the knife, this entire part right over here, which is boiling hot, and I put it on the trachea. It burns, it sizzles, it goes psst. At that moment, I made it a treif. A moment later, I cut through the second siman. I'm talking about in a millisecond thing. What happened first? You're right. The sharpness comes first. So I went sharp, I shechted. But a millisecond later, the side of the knife touches that pipe that I just cut. And memela, it got burnt. It got burnt, it became a treifa. A millisecond later, it cuts the second siman, the esophagus. But by that time, it's too late. I already burnt, I already caused damage, I already put my cigarette on the first siman, and I made it a treifa. Why is that not a problem? So what if I cut? No. It's not a treif when I cut because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to shecht. I'm not supposed to burn.
Burning after the cut.
I hear what you're saying. What?
Burning after the cut.
After I cut the first simon. Rabbi Isai, if I burn the first simon, you're asking that I made a treif? I just burnt the first simon after I cut it, but I didn't finish my shechita. I burnt the first simon before I finished my shechita. I started shechita, I cut pipe number 1, burnt it, and then cut pipe number 2.
You cut a third of pipe number 1 before you got to the halfway point. You burnt the rest of it. So you didn't do a shechita on the right with the simon.
I'm not going to do it now, or maybe I could. At the end of the day, you're taking the neck of the bird and of the animal and you're bending it back like this. This is what they do even on the machine today. On the box, they call it a box. They have this $100,000 pneumatic box that grabs the cow and flips it over, and it's completely immobilized. And then there's a piece of metal underneath the neck of the cow, and it pulls the neck backwards. And it puts a tremendous strain on this pipe. If I take a knife and I cut this pipe, what's going to happen? It's going to pop open on the spot. Says the Gemara, when I cut the pipe, this trachea splits to both sides and doesn't allow the knife to burn it. There's no burn. It's not touching the pipe. The knife never hits the sides of the trachea because there's a pull, there's tension on both sides. The only thing I thought about it, and whatever. Sometimes when you cut a tablecloth, your two kids are holding it like this, and you put a scissor down the middle. You're going like this, a plastic tablecloth. It pulls to the side. The scissor is never touching either side of the tablecloth. It's just hitting the area of the cut, but that's it. So says the Gemara, it never has a chance to burn the two sides. Here we have video actually. Why am I saying this? Everything's in video. This is the Gemara's question. You have a hot burning. Rabbi, this is never done in history. All this brand new to MDY. Look at that. As he cuts, he's burning the sides. You want to say he didn't get through the roiv, whatever it is. He certainly didn't get to the next. So Simon, this is not great, because I would like it to pop open sooner. But anyway, what the point is that it pops. It splits to the side. It goes away from the knife in this picture, and it doesn't have a chance to sizzle and burn. Iboilu. Libing shapud vihiko boy. If somebody gets a whack with a piece of metal, boom, somebody hits him really hard. Forget if it's hot or not. This is not hot. Okay, this is cold. It goes like this. And it's this size. Let's, for argument's sake, let's call this a gris. Okay, it's the size of some sort of coin, this size. And as it heals, it turns colors, and it looks like tsaras. So you go to the kohen. Now, if you didn't get a whack, one day you wake up, a person wakes up, he finds a weird color on his skin, goes to the kohen. The kohen is masgrim. The kohen says, you need to go, I need to put you in seclusion. I'm being masgir for a week. And let me check it out in a week. Kohen comes back, Rabbi Schoenberg comes back, checks it out, go in for a second week. 2 weeks. Nothing changed, a second week. But when it comes on top of a whack, that's called shchin. It's called shchin. How many of you knew what that was? Not too many. Shchin. And on that, there's a maximum of 1 week. He looks, sees if there's anything, if the 2 hairs grow there. Did it spread? No. Go home. There's something else called a michvah. Same exact thing. Just rather than it happening from a whack, it happened from a burn. Let's say this is very hot, and it goes like this. Psst. Then you know how it goes. There's a whole process of how it starts healing. It turns colors. Let's say it turns white. And all of a sudden, it looks like tsaras. He goes to the kohen, same exact thing. 1 week, after a week, it didn't change, it didn't grow, not tsaras, go home, instead of 2 weeks. What if he gets a whack? And then he gets a burn on the same exact area, because he's experimenting with this stamp. So we're like, oh wow, that hurt. And then he burns, that hurt in the same exact spot. So we go by the second one, not by the first one. It's called, that would be a burn, not a shchin. If the burn happened first,
Same week. It's the same 1 week.
yeah, but I'll just explain in a second. I'm saying the idea, and then I'll explain what's an nafkamina. Let's say he gets a burn, and then he gets a whack. What comes second? The whack, the bang. So we go, it's shchin, it's a bang. If the bang happened first, and then a burn, it's the burn, it's a michvah. Because it's very, very important. What if he got a half a circle, not a full circle? A half a gris is not enough. So he has a half a gris over here, and then he has another half a gris. So if he got a half a, you hear, Nachman, you with me? Everybody's with me? He gets a half a circle on the right, a bang, and then 2 days later he gets another half a circle of a bang. The two circles get together. Two halves make a whole. That's a michvah. What if he gets a half a circle burn, and then the left side half a circle burn? It's a burn. What if he gets 1 and 1? No good. They don't combine. A half a burn and a half a bang, no combination. What if he got half and then got a whole? You have to know, or another half, and then you got let's say you got a half the right side is a bang. The left side was a burn, and then another half a burn. Again, let's say the one on the right, you got a half a circle of bang. And then the left side, you got a half a circle of burn. They don't go together. But then he got a half a circle bang on the left side. They come together because the second one was a bang. Let's say it was the opposite. He got a half a circle bang. Then he got another half a circle bang. But on the half a circle that had a bang, he got a burn. So now it turns into a burn. And a bang don't go together. That's the whole sugya. And I have video of it. I'll show you in video. Iboilu. Li bein shapod. So now here comes the question, and that has everything to do with our knife. We're going to bring a raya from the shechita knife. Why? This piece of metal was heated up and gave a guy a whack. It's a whack and a burn together. Which one is first? What do we say by a knife, Rabbi Isai? What's first? The cut comes before the heat. So maybe the bang comes before the heat, and the Gemara is going to say, well, wait a minute. Cut is a sharpness, the edge of the knife, and this is a blunt object. That's the Gemara's answer. But that's all we're getting to. So on the right side, it's red. Red is a bang in our sugya, for us at least, for MDY. White is, if anybody got a burn, knows that's a little bit what it looks like. These two things, half bang, half burn, half shchin, right side is shchin, half michvah on the left, do they combine? No, they do not combine. Half and half don't combine. What happens if he has shchin, he got a bang on the right, burn on the left, but then afterwards the burn turned into a bang, he banged it, so this does combine. You had a bang and a bang. You had a bang, but a bang, and it's tummy. What if it started out, the left side started out as a bang? So now you think, he has a full shear, a full gris, a circle of bangs. He's tummy. But then this chacham goes and gets it branded. So it turns into a michvah, it turns into a burn. A burn and a bang do not combine, and Mela he's tar. So the Gemara asks, what happened? He heated this up and he whacked him in the hand on a half a circle, on the left half. Did the bang come before the heat, or the heat came before the bang? If the heat comes first, then the guy is tummy. Why? Because the bang came second. And then you have a situation where it's shchin and shchin. Because it came second. Second always wins. But if the second thing was the heat, was the burn, so the shchin came first, then comes the michvah second, and then you have a situation where it is half and half. It's, this. It would be tar. Shchin and michvah tar. And the Gemara wants to prove from our sugya. And then the sugya is over. Says the Gemara, he has a red hot piece of metal, but he also gave him blunt force. Do we look at it as a wound, as a blunt, what do you call it? Blunt trauma? Or michvah, is it a burn? Nidain. What's the difference? Look at the sanya. Shchinu michva mitamim b'shavua echad. If a person has blunt trauma or a burn, you only do hezger for 1 week, not 2 weeks. B'shnei simanim, and there's two things that have to occur in order for him to become tamei b'seir love and to have white hair. Uvefisyon, if it spreads. Once again, I forgot. But there's a parsha that talks about shchin, 5 psukim, and then there's a parsha right afterwards from Pasuk of Dalet on, another 5 psukim that talks about mikvah. The question is, if they're identical in halacha, why not just say shchin u'michva in one pasuk, and then you could say 5 psukim. It's one parsha for 2. What do you need 2 separate? Very simple. To teach us the yesod that they're very, very different, I need 2 parshiyos for it. Why? Because they're different. And do not combine a michva with a shchin and a shchin with a michva. They're different. What's the difference? This is simple, Rabbi Yisai. What's a blunt force and what's heat? Obviously, even if you take a piece of wood that's a little warm and you give a guy a whack, a hot bat, it's going to be blunt force. Bev, and the same thing with the stone. Begefes, the leftover from these olives, they have a little heat to them. Bechami tferia, and the hot baths of tferia. That's not real fire. That's fake stuff. If it doesn't come from fire, then it's blunt force. If you take lead right out of its source, it's a little warm, but not enough to be considered something that burns. That's blunt force. And what's considered a burn? If you got burnt by a coal, hot. No, sid is a plaster, lime. Begifsis, retech. It says by you what?
By remets, it's hot ashes.
No. Oh, remets. Okay, remets. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Anything very boiling hot from a fire, begifsis retech. Anything that comes from a fire. Let's say chamiur, hot boiling water. V'tanya, shchinu michva. Rabbi said we learned all this. This is Chazarah. Shchinu michva, you have the 2 things: a wound, a blunt force, and a burn. Im shchin koydem michva. If the blunt force is first, so then the blunt force, so the whatever comes second cancels out the first thing. So in this case, it was the burn, it cancels the blunt force. And if the shchin is second, so the shchin is mevatel the burn. There was a half a circle of a blunt force. Boy, he heated up a piece of metal and he gave him a whack. So there's 2 things going on at the same time. There's a blunt force plus a burn. And it so happened to be the size of a half a gris, the left side. What's halacha? Do we view it as the blunt force first? And the burn comes second, so second beats it. So therefore, you have half that's a blunt force, half that's a fire, that's a burn, and they don't go together. Or perhaps on the left side, the burn came first. On the left side comes the blunt force a millisecond afterwards. And because it's second, it cancels out the burn. And now you have the left side that is blunt force, right side that is blunt force. And the 2 sides are mitzvah. Toshma. Perhaps I can bring a raya from our sugya. Here we have the same exact thing. You have a red hat knife that's blunt force plus it's a burn. And you do shchita. We view it as blunt force. The force comes before the heat. So you see the blunt force comes before in a microscopic, in a millisecond slow motion camera. You'll see that the force comes before the burn. Says the Gemara, Chidud Shani, because it's so hot, it's so sharp, because it's so sharp, there is no heat on the sharpness, says Rashi. And therefore, the blunt force, all you have on a sharpness is the blunt force. You have almost no heat on that sharpness. It's a microscopic, the heat comes later on. The sharpness comes first. Here we have another brayso that says Mefurish. He takes a hot pipe and he whacks somebody with it. First comes in other words, we consider it a burn and not a blunt force. So you see that first came the blunt force, then comes the burn, and burn wins. That's why we decide that it's a burn, not a blunt force. So the Gemara Samnami, the Barzi Mivraz, he's using the point. In other words, it's considered if somebody stabs somebody with a knife, it's the shapud, yeah. In other words, there's no chavata, the Gemara is saying. There's no blunt force. All we have here, we don't consider a stab blunt force because it comes from the point of the knife and the sharpness, and mele, all we have is heat. Omer of Nachman, Omer Rav Ravu. Nu sugi Rabbi say, Sakin shel avodah zara, mutar lishchei ba. You hear what's going on here? You have a knife of avodah zara, which avodah zara, Rabbi says, is also bahana. So how could I use it? The answer is because he's a mekalkel. Sakin shel avodah zara, mutar lishchei ba. I'm allowed to do shchita. V'asu lachti ba basar, but I'm not allowed to benefit from it later on to dissect this animal up into pieces. Mutar lishchei ba mekalkelu. So Rashi says an interesting thing. Every cow you could do a bunch of things with. You could use it as a tractor, as something that brings that has calves, and also for meat. If you're going to limit it to one out of the three things, you just made it worth less. And making it worth less is the opposite of having hana from it. That's how we're learning. That it's a mekalkel. In halacha, you're ruining. By breaking something, you're what about Shabbos? Are you allowed to shecht on Shabbos? Absolutely not. But you're mekalkel. On Shabbos, you're allowed to be, not allowed, but mekalkel is potter. The answer is, because Shabbos, it has to do with your meleches machshavos, what you want. And at that point, you want a dead animal. You want a shecht animal. So maybe that was the thing. But in avodah zarah, it has to do with, I need to say shalom aleichem to some guests. Omar Rava, pa'amim sha'ashoichet asur, but to cut, now you're doing something positive, then you're not allowed to use avodah zarah. Says Rava, but I could flip it. Sometimes it's asur, sometimes it's mutter. In either way. When is it 100% asur to shecht with the avodah zarah knife? It's when it's about to die. It's about to die, so now you're doing something positive with the avodah zarah knife asur. Sometimes I have a situation where you're allowed to cut. Sometimes you want to give a guy a nice gift. You want to give a king a massive, I don't know, what is it called? Not a meat, the opposite of meat, but a roast. My mother-in-law makes it that round, the giant piece of meat. Prime rib. So you give a geschmack piece like this. You go and you chop it up into small pieces. You ruin it's not as chashiv. So then you're allowed to use the knife because now you're mekalkel. Ask the Gemara, what's going on? Every type of mishum shamnunas the surah. On the knife of the avodah zarah, it has some asur fats from non-kosher animals, from avodah zarah animals. Says the Gemara, it's an avodah zarah knife, but b'chadasha, it's brand new in the box. Says the Gemara, impossible. Daf chesam beis. Chadasha, bein l'Rabbi Shmuel, bein l'Rabbi Akiva, misham avodah zarah. If it doesn't turn into avodah zarah until you use it as avodah zarah. If it's brand new in the box, you didn't use it yet. Misham avodah zarah and asur ma'ashiavdu. So we have two answers. The boy saying with the pasuk bay gvazal avodah zarah. He uses it for avodah zarah, but to cut trees. When you cut trees, there's no oil on it, there's no fats. And Mamela now he's using it for kosher, so you don't have an issue with fats. But it's avodah zarah. The boy saying b'shana shalib nabur. He did libon. He put it under the fire. It's 100% avodah zarah. It's been used by avodah zarah for 22 years. But you took out all the fats, and you don't have an issue of fats, and now you're using it for kosher. Are you allowed to use it for kosher or not? Itmar. When you cut, check out this beautiful picture, you'll understand the whole thing. When you cut into the animal with a knife, what's going to happen? Your knife is going to touch the sides of the neck. Everything the knife goes through, it's touching pieces of the animal. Those pieces absorb non-kosher or fats. So what do? Two options. Either, check this out, it's beautiful. You cut off a thin slice. All the red that you see here was touched by a treif knife, by avodah zarah knife. All you need to do is take a slicer, cut off one tiny sliver of meat, and then you're good to go. The other man says, no, just wash it with cold water and you're good to go. Rabbi Baruch Omar Mediach, just wash it with cold water. What's the machloek? Is the Marsav Beis Hashchita Tzoinen? We have to see when you cut into the animal, is it cold? Or Marsav Beis Hashchita Riteach, is it hot? Obviously, they had. You can put your hand there and see is it hot or cold. The question is, there is some heat, but it's not really Yatzei Ledes heat. And the question is that heat, and because of the whole situation of the shechita, does it pull the fats out of the knife? Is it enough to pull the fats out of the knife into the meat? So maybe that's the machlokes. Loi. So I could say, let's finish because we're over an hour into this year. The Gemara is just going to say, I don't have a riot to either way. Loi, I'll go with you. It's very hot. Shapir. Now it makes a lot of sense. It's very hot. You got to take off a sliver. But why is cold water enough? I love this lashon. The body is busy. It's busy chucking blood out. There's like like on a Navy ship. They have these water, or like when they try to pirate a ship going. So one of their defense mechanisms is a bunch of water, massive hoses. They hose them down. If the body's chucking blood out, it doesn't allow you to come in. And you could also say, no, the shechita is pretty. It's war, but nothing that's going to pull fats into it. So that's obvious why cold water is enough. Why do you have to take off a sliver? The sakina, who knows what's going on there scientifically? The pressure of the knife, balai, causes it to absorb. Let's do one little piece here, so we're not with that much. Sakin treifa, what about a knife that shechted a treif animal, which happens every shochet that's going to be shechting in a shlachtais, he's going to have a treifa come out from his knife. The concern is that fats from a treif animal went into my knife, and now I have treif fat in my knife, and I'm shechting the next animal, it's going to go to the next animal. Just wash it off with hot water, with cold water. And the halacha is even with cold water. You have a shmata, the frasa that's a little rough. You could then you could just wipe it down with the shmata, and you don't need to wash it off with the water. So he told me, l'maisa, this is what they do today. They wash it off with the cold water, or they use a shmata. I asked him, what about wiping it on the hair of the animal? He said, yes, you could do that, but we don't like doing that because our knives are very delicate and it could ruin the knife. But in between shechita, they'll do it, and not between the birds. Why do you need hot water? You're going to tell me the reason why you need hot water because it absorbed bad fats of the treif animal. The is unbelievable. When I'm shechting, as I'm going through the animal, it's a live animal. I went through Eivim Menachai. Got absorbed into my knife. Amos Bala says the Gemara, when does it absorb? When it gets heated up. When does it get heated up? It's a second after the shechita. Then it's already no longer Eivim Menachai because it's already dead, and there's no issue of Eivim Menachai. Have a wonderful Shabbos, a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.